You are standing in front of two washing machines. Same capacity, same features, same white box with a door on the front. One of them costs $300 more than the other. The salesman rests his hand on the expensive one and tells you it is the better machine, the one that will last. What he does not tell you is that the same corporation built both of them on the same line out of the same parts, and the only real difference is the badge on the door and which store he happens to be standing in. My name is Richard Nakamura. I want to be clear about something right at the start, because it is the reason this video is worth your time. I never sold you a machine. I was never the man behind that counter. For 30 years, I was the one who showed up afterward, 5 years later, 10 years later, when the thing quit in the middle of a Tuesday. And that is a very different education. A salesman finds out whether you bought. I found out whether it lasted, who came back to fix it, and whether anybody picked up the phone at all. So today, I am going to walk you through the 3 places Americans actually buy appliances, the same way I would walk my own mother through them. 2 of them are quietly overcharging you. One of them is not, and it is not the one with the cheapest sign out front. Then, I am going to hand you the 5 checks I run before I let anybody I care about buy a single machine. 5 checks, no tools, no appointment. Run them, and nobody at any counter can move you off your money again. Let me start with the one almost everybody walks into first, the big home improvement store. The reflex here is simple, and it is not stupid. The sticker is cheaper, the store is huge, the sign is famous, so it must be the honest price. On the sticker, that is often true. They do move a lot of machines, and they do price them hard, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. The trouble is not the price. It is everything that happens after you pay. Neither of the 2 big chains employs its own delivery and installation crews. Both of them subcontract that work out, and in a lot of towns, it is the same contractor doing the deliveries for both stores. So the fellow carrying your $1,500 machine up your steps does not work for the company you just paid, and he is being paid by the stop, which means his day is a race. I have walked into kitchens behind those crews. I have seen a range shoved in without the anti-tip bracket ever coming out of the bag. I have seen a dryer connected to a duct that was never reattached at the wall. Remember what I told you about lint in a duct. That is not a small thing. Then there is the part that catches people cold, and this one is worth writing down. At both of those chains, once the appliance is delivered, you generally have about 48 hours to report a problem or refuse it. 2 days, not the 30 or 90 you get on almost everything else in that store. If your machine arrives with a dented panel and you leave it in the box until the weekend because the plumber is not coming until Monday, you may have just bought that dent. My verdict on the home improvement chain is this: the sticker price is honest, the risk is real, and the risk sits in exactly the place I have spent my whole life telling you matters most, which is the installation. Now the second store. The National Electronics chain, same idea, different building, aggressive prices, clean showroom, a young person with a headset who is genuinely trying to help you. The delivery is subcontracted here too, so everything I just said applies. But this store has a second business running underneath the first one, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That business is the extended warranty. Watch how hard they push it at the counter, again online, again in the follow-up email. There is a reason for that pressure, and the numbers are not a secret. Retailers commonly make somewhere between 40 and 80% gross margin on an extended warranty. A business professor at Penn State put it in plain terms. The typical margin on the product itself runs 15 to 20%, while the profit on the extended warranty runs over 200%. In a lot of stores, those plans account for something like 15 to 35% of the entire gross profit off a small slice of the sales. The machine is not what they are selling you. The machine is what gets you to the counter. The same thinking runs through the extras. You buy a washer, and at checkout you find the fill hoses are $30. They are not in the box. A dryer cord, $30, not in the box. The vent kit, another $27. None of that is a scam exactly. Those parts are real and they cost money. It is just that none of it was on the sign you made your decision from. My verdict here is that the shelf price is bait, and the profit lives in everything that gets added after you have already said yes. Now, for the thing that reframes both of those stores, because most people have this exactly backwards. Most people believe that the expensive badge is a better machine than the cheap badge. Consider Kenmore. For generations, Kenmore was the appliance brand in this country. Here is what almost nobody knows. Kenmore never manufactured a single appliance, not one. Sears never built them either. Every Kenmore ever sold was made by somebody else and wearing a Kenmore label. Whirlpool built them for over 100 years until that arrangement ended. Some were LG, some were Frigidaire, some GE, some Daewoo, some Panasonic. It was a badge, and it was one of the most trusted badges in America. That has not gone away, it just moved. Whirlpool owns Maytag, KitchenAid, Genair, Amana, and Roper. Electrolux owns Frigidaire, Tappan, Kelvinator, and Gibson. And GE Appliances, that most American of names, has been owned by Haier, a Chinese company, since 2016, along with Hotpoint and GE Profile. So when a salesman walks you from the plain badge up to the premium badge in the name of reliability, understand what is happening. Very often it is the same corporation, the same platform, sometimes the same plant, with a different door and a different price. He is walking you up the price ladder. He is not walking you up the quality ladder. Before I go on, one thing so you know where I stand. Nobody pays me for this. Not a store, not a brand, not a sponsor. Nothing in this video was given to me, and nothing here is an ad. Every verdict I hand you is one I would give my own family, and that is the only reason you should believe me when I tell you which of these three is the honest one. Now, the 5 checks, run them anywhere, on any machine, at any of the 3. Check 1. The model number. Manufacturers change a letter or a digit on the end for a color or for a particular chain of stores, and it is the identical machine underneath. So do not chase a suffix somebody quoted you. Match the things that actually describe the machine, the capacity, the dimensions, whether the tub is steel or plastic. Get that right, and you will sometimes find the same appliance sitting at a different store for less. Check 2. Find out who really makes it. Look up the parent company before you pay for a badge. If the premium name and the value name come out of the same corporation, you have just found the exact spot where the markup lives. Check 3. Get the out-the-door number, not the shelf number. Delivery, installation, haul away of the old one, and the parts. Hoses run $20 to $30. A dryer cord $20 to $30, a vent kit $15 to $25, and hauling the old machine away anywhere from $25 to $150. Altogether, That stacks up to somewhere between $1 and $350 on top of the price that made you choose. Make all three stores give you one final number for the machine installed and the old one gone, and then compare those numbers and nothing else. Check 4. Ask who is actually doing the installation, an employee of the store or a subcontractor. Then ask how long you have to report a problem. If the answer is 48 hours, you now know that you have to be home, and you have to run that machine through a full cycle the same day it lands. Not next weekend. Check 5, and this is the one that decides how the next 10 years go. Ask whether the store has its own service department and whether they can get parts for what they are selling you. A machine that nobody nearby will open is a machine you will replace instead of repair. Let me tell you where I learned to care about that last one. My mother bought her appliances in Ohio from a man in town whose name she knew, not a chain, a shop with his family name over the door. She paid a little more, and my father grumbled about it every single time. Then the washer would quit, and she would call, and that same man would come out to the house. And half the time he had the part on the truck already, because he sold the machine and he knew what went wrong with it. I did not understand it as a boy. I thought she was being sentimental about a neighbor. She was not being sentimental at all. She had worked out something that took me 20 years in the trade to see for myself. The person who sells you the machine and the person who has to come back and fix it should be the same person. Because when they are, he has to live with what he sold you. That is not a warm feeling. That is an incentive, and it is the only one in this whole business that is pointed in your direction. Which brings me to the third store, and my verdict. The local independent appliance dealer. The shop in your town with somebody's name on the sign, the one you have driven past 1,000 times and never walked into because you assumed it was expensive. Watch it. Go through the 5 checks. On the model number, they sell the same models the chains do, mostly the same catalog. On price, most of them will match a big chain's advertised number if you show it to them, and they will talk to you about it, which is not something the big stores do. On the out-the-door number, they will generally quote you the whole thing at once because that is how they have always sold, and the hoses and the cord are usually simply part of the job. On who installs it, their own people, employees, who will be back in that town tomorrow and whose boss you can walk in and speak to. And on who repairs it, this is the whole thing. They have a service department. They sell what they can fix, and they fix what they sell. And the man who comes out has often been doing it for 20 or 30 years. Now, the honest part, because I promised you that. On the sticker, the big chains may well come in about $100 cheaper, and sometimes more. That is real, and anybody telling you the local shop is always the cheaper option is selling you something. Let me be straight about what those $100 actually buy. They buy an installer who is not paid by the stop. They buy somebody who answers the phone in year 6. They buy parts availability from a person who already knows your machine. If your budget genuinely will not stretch, or if you are handy and you plan to install it yourself and you know what you are doing, then the warehouse aisle is a perfectly reasonable decision, and I will not talk you out of it. For everybody else, of these 3, the local dealer is the one that is not overcharging you, because that extra 100 is the only money in this entire video that actually buys you something back. Here is one thing you can go do this week, and it costs nothing and helps you even if you are not buying anything. Walk around your house with your phone. On every major appliance, there is a plate with the model number and the serial number on it. inside the dishwasher door, on the doorframe of the refrigerator, on the back of the washer, behind the little door on the front of the dryer. Take a picture of every one of them and keep them in an album on your phone. The day something breaks, that photo is the difference between a technician who orders the right part on the first call and a week of waiting. It is also how you find out whether your machine was ever recalled. 10 minutes tonight. That is the map. The home improvement chain sells you an honest sticker and a stranger carrying your machine up the stairs. The electronics chain sells you a good price and makes its living on the plan it sells you afterward. The local dealer charges you a little more and is still standing there when the thing breaks. And whatever the badge on the front says, remember that a handful of corporations built nearly all of them anyway. What 30 years taught me is that with appliances, you are never really buying a machine. You are buying a relationship with whoever has to keep it alive. My mother understood that with no training at all, standing in a shop in Ohio, paying a little extra to a man whose name she knew. Motenai is the word she would have used for it. You take care of the thing you have, and you buy it from somebody who will help you do that. Tell me down in the comments where you bought your last appliance, and more to the point, tell me whether anybody came back when it broke. That second answer is the one I actually want to hear, and I have a feeling it will tell the whole story better than I just did. I read every single one. My grandmother used to tell me about Motenai. It means nothing good should ever be wasted. Not the thing in your hands, and not the knowing of how to keep it,